What's the story, lunatics? Hope all is well with you. This is Lee Sheridan from Luain Press. Welcome to another Luain Press podcast. Today we will have a guest joining us later on in the podcast. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk to you guys about some of the things that are happening with Luain Press. So we have a lot of exciting developments on the go at the moment. And I just wanted to update you and let you know about what's going on, and even how you can be involved in some of the things. So first thing is I want to talk a bit about Pat Ingoldsby. So for any of our listeners out there who don't know who Pat Ingoldsby was, Pat was an Irish poet and a television presenter. He initiated and hosted children's television shows that became very popular in Ireland back in the 1980s. And he performed his poems as well in venues throughout Ireland, wrote plays for the stage, for radio. He published books of short stories for children. He wrote for the newspaper as well. And kind of from the mid-1990s onwards, he sort of withdrew from the mass media, and he became more known for selling his collections of poetry on the streets of Dublin, usually around Westmoreland Street or College Green. But he became a bit of a character in Dublin and was well known. But sadly, he passed away in March this year. But us here at Luain Press, we wanted to celebrate, his life and his work, and we're now in the process of creating a spoken word album called One Good Sparkle, which is based on 16 of his poems. So these poems, hopefully they'll be set to music. We have got a composer who's based in Wales at the moment, Philip May, and he's been working away on creating original music for this album, and the music will accompany poems read by a host of renowned spoken word artists. Some of these people knew Pat personally. Some of them were friends with him. Some of them never met Pat at all, but great fans of his work and appreciated what he did for literature in Ireland. So some of the names we have on the track list include Imelda May, Stephen James Smith, Anna D, Jan Brereton, Emmett O'Brien, Dara Fleming, Mikey Cullen, Annie Peter, Holly Hughes, Leon Dunn, Ryan Duggan, Steve O'Toole, and Stephen Maguire as well. And there could even be one or two more names coming onto that list as well down the line. But for now, those are the people that are contributing, and I'll also be contributing a poem myself. So it's all very exciting, and the development has begun. But how can you be involved and help us with this? So it's a big project. There's a lot going on with it, and it's also an expensive project. So we can't do it without your support. So we're looking for €6,000 to make this dream a reality. We've just literally yesterday began a GoFundMe campaign, and €6,000 would cover everything from contributor fees to distribution costs, and the making of the music as well. Again, it's all original music, and there'll even be original recordings of Pat reading poetry on the album as well. So please, absolutely, try and support the cause. We'll put a link to the GoFundMe campaign in the description of the video. Whatever you can give, even €5-10, and even if you can't afford to give anything, even if you could share this video, share any posts that we put up on our social media platforms about it. If you can even share any blog posts as well that we might post about it, just even share it around, and the more, I suppose every little helps, as they say, the more the merrier, and we can help bring this project into being, and we can do it for Pat, and hopefully make it happen by, fingers crossed, early next year, but we'd also like to point out, for any other if there's any Pat Ingoldsby fans listening, there was recently a big fundraiser as well to produce a posthumous collection of Pat's poems. So this book Pat was aware of this book before he passed away. He was very excited about the project, but he knew that he wouldn't get to see it come into being. But after a successful fundraising campaign, this book, which is called Out of the Blue, Pink, it's a great title, that's going to be launched later this month in Chapters Bookstore on the 30th of October. So it's very exciting. I've been asked to come along and read a poem at the launch, so I was thrilled and honoured to be invited along to that. So yeah, if you can, come along, get yourself a book, and yeah, just I suppose honour the legacy of Pat Ingoldsby, one of the great poets. So yeah, that's all the things that are happening in Pat Ingoldsby's world at the moment. Speaking of book launches as well, we have another book launch coming up soon that we're excited about. So Colin Anderson, he's launching his book of poetry on the 1st of November. His book of poems is called The Senseless Ramblings of an Unremarkable Yet Likeable Oaf. So sounds like a funny book that I'm looking forward to getting my hands on. That'll be launching in the Clarence Hotel in, I'm not sure how you pronounce this. I don't know if it's Bury or Bury. It's Bury anyway, is how it's spelled, but Bury, probably Bury, I'd say. Yeah, Clarence Hotel anyway, 7 p.m. in Bury. And it says 7 p.m. till late. So I'd imagine you should clear your schedules if you're planning on coming along. It sounds like it's going to be a heavy one. But I've been invited to read at that, as has one of Luain Press's other poets, Andy Porter. We launched his book earlier this year. His book is called Neighbour's Got a New Hot Tub. You can get a copy on our website. And also as well coming along is another poet performer, Hayley Lynn Gordon as well. So, lots of poetry, lots happening. Come along, check it out. Exciting times. So, I wanted to talk as well about the big thing that's happening next week. So I'll give a bit of context. So 2 years ago, in 2023, we released a book, a one-act play called Meenuiscebán by a man called Niall Gallen. So Meenuiscebán, for any of our Gaeilgeoirs, translates to Valley of the White Water. And it's set in Donegal, and was written by a Donegal playwright, Niall Gallen. And we released it 2 years ago, and nothing much came of it. Nothing happened with it. Kind of sat there for a while. Until this year, when the Letterkenny Cathedral Quarter noticed it and expressed an interest in developing it into a radio play. So we were blown away. And we've worked with Elusive Theatre and Highland Radio to produce this radio adaptation of the play. And that will be airing next week on the 15th of October at 8 p.m. So just to kind of give a bit of context on what it's about, it tells the story. So Meenuiscebán tells the story of Sean Grant, who's a young, sensitive Donegal farmer, a man who's deeply connected to nature and wildlife and his farm. His simple way of life is thrown into conflict with the modern world upon the return of his materialistic brother, Patrick, who's come back from America with his new fiancée, Paige Kennedy. So it's set in the 1980s, and the action of the play explores the friction between family tradition and the heart, capturing a time when, as Niall Gallen, the writer, notes, where it was seemingly acceptable to speak one's mind without offending anyone. And Sean's life is turned upside down as this clash unfolds. So it'd be very exciting to see it, hear it on radio for the first time. It's never been performed anywhere else as far as we know. So I'm looking forward to it. So if you're based in Donegal, you can tune into Highland Radio and have a listen. But if you're not living in Donegal and you'd still like to listen, you can go on to Google and Google Highland Radio, and it should be available from 8 p.m. on the 15th. So please, if you get a chance, do go on, and it'll also be made available after that date as well. It'll still be on the website, but if you want to hear it live for the first time, that's the date and time to do so. So we have a special guest as well to come on and talk about the play. So this man's name is Donnan Harvey, and he's the secretary of the Letterkenny Cathedral Quarter, which is be celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, the Letterkenny Cathedral Quarter Literary Festival. So with us today we have Donnan Harvey, who is part of the Letterkenny Cathedral Quarter Literary Festival. Donnan, could you tell us a bit about yourself and the work you do with the Cathedral Quarter?
Yeah, Lee, I'm the secretary of Group Letterkenny Cathedral Quarter, and I suppose our mission is to regenerate the historical church, Luain Street and surrounding areas, and to create a cultural historical quarter in the heart of Letterkenny. So, and to achieve our aims, I suppose that we decided to have an annual cultural programme of events, and our flagship event is a literary festival that we host every October, and this year we'll be celebrating our 10th anniversary.
Brilliant. So 10 years old, and I suppose it all began when you decided to revive the literary quarter. And why bring in a literary festival to do that?
Well, even the story, I suppose it's a very interesting story in itself. At the time, we were trying to raise awareness of what we were doing, and there again, I'll confess, my background would have been a former history teacher, and I was sending emails to various TDs and senators trying to raise awareness of the overall project, and I learned that the only person who was kind of responding to my emails at the time was Senator David Norris. And I later learned that he actually didn't use the computer. And so my late father was was receiving kind of treatment down in St. Luke's, and I had an appointment to meet Senator Norris. And then I asked my colleague, Shane Toolin, what do you think I should ask him? And he says, ask him will he open a literary festival? And again, this is kind of a joke then. Going, well, what would we know about a literary festival? And he said, well, Shane suggested that, look, we'll start one. Letterkenny, there is no literary festival in Letterkenny, but the town is big enough, there will be an appetite. And he suggested that if we keep the festival small, that it will able to grow organically. And I suppose, like in our earlier years, that we always kind of joke that we must have been the world's first literary festival run by non-literary people, and that was in the very earlier years. But that has kind of totally changed now that people like Mary Turley McGrath and in later years Teresa Ryder have joined us, and that it's taken on a life of its own, and it's something that we look forward to every year.
Brilliant. Yeah, David Norris, he's always been a great supporter of the arts, which is so it's great that you had that support from him. And yeah, so I suppose how will the celebrations take place this year? What will it look like?
Well, so it's a full packed schedule, I suppose, and it runs from Wednesday to Sunday, and I suppose like the first one again, this is something we've done before, and we're delighted to be doing again. That we'll be having a radio play, and again, this is, I suppose, with yourselves from one of your authors, Niall Gallon's. Meenuiscebán is going to be performed by the Elusive Theatre on Highland Radio, and it's something that we're absolutely delighted of. And then I suppose we've got then on the Thursday morning we have Dougie Bartlett, who's from the Steinbeck Festival in Limavady, is our secondary school event that he's going to be giving a talk about John Steinbeck's connections to the Roe Valley area in Limavady, and then it'll be followed by the local secondary school students watching the film of Mice and Men. And then on the Sunday, or that evening again, on Thursday at 6 p.m, there's a cultural evening of music, poetry and prose with Deirdre Hines, James Simpson, Rafo Diamond Riders, Celine McGlynn, Ukulele Orchestra and the Luain Choir. And I suppose I'll just kind of go back to the reason, even though that I can't confess to be a literary connoisseur, the reason that you asked to say, what was the first reason that we did have the literary festival, and that was because, and I didn't know this here, was because of Donegal's links to Jane Austen, and that her nieces are buried here in Donegal, including one of them is buried in Cornwall Parish Church at the top of the church lane. So that was the reason that another reason why we decided to have the festival. And on a Thursday at 8 p.m, we'll be screening through with the Cornwall Parish Church, screening the film Pride and Prejudice in the church itself. So we're absolutely delighted. And Reverend Adrian Doris has organised that there. And then on the Friday, we'll have our official opening that it's performed by author and journalist Roy Greenslade, and then it'll be followed by readings from author Jane Buckley, who has the Stone Corner series, which is kind of set during the Troubles. And then on the Saturday morning, we will be having in Dillon's Hotel, it's a crime writers masterclass where we'll have authors Paul Charles, Andrea Carter, and Sharon Thompson will be in discussion with Jane Buckley about key moments in their writing career. And I suppose then on the Saturday, then at 3 p.m, local journalist and author Pat McGarrett will be running a kind of creative writing class where it's an open invitation to people who are interested in writing but kind of having difficulties of where to begin.
Yeah.
So that's all the Saturday ones, and I've gone on. So that's the events there, and there's much more as well.
There's something for everyone, essentially. Yeah. It's brilliant. Yeah, no, it's great to see, and there is a lot of historical connection. We've got connections with Brendan Behan, John Steinbeck, as you said, and Jane Austen as well. And I suppose Meenuiscebán now is sort of celebrating recent work by one of our authors, Niall Gallen. So we published Niall's play 2 years ago. It's only a one-act play set in Donegal in the 1980s. But maybe you can tell us a bit about the journey. I remember passing it to you or meeting you at the John Steinbeck Festival last year, and I gave you a copy of the book.
And again, it kind of goes back. You said you explored the connection with Brendan Behan, and I suppose it was the Jane Austen element that we always had, and then it was the Brendan Behan. Well, we discovered the Brendan Behan element that Brendan Behan visited Letterkenny twice in the early 60s and 60 and 61 when he was at the height of his popularity, and then we've been developing that dimension, and then on this 2 years ago, or in 2023, to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Behan's birth, we put on two of Behan's RTE radio plays on Moving Out in the Garden Party on the local radio station up here, Highland Radio. So we kind of had a bit of experience. The Elizabeth Theatre put this production on, but again, as much as the festival is about celebrating, these kind of connections with historical figures, we're also very much about promoting the local, promoting Donegal writers. That opportunity, and again, it was brilliant when we met you and at the Steinbeck Festival, and the suggestion that Niall's play could be adapted to the radio, and it was fantastic. And then that really, set the wheels in motion with Mary reading the play, Joe Dowling, the director, and then we also Fionnuala Rabbit, who's involved in Highland Radio, and them all liking the play, and then deciding, and then meeting up with Niall himself and yourself, and seeing how this could happen, and it's fantastic that it's going to be aired on, and again, it's the debut broadcast as such. So, and we're chuffed about it.
Yeah, we're chuffed here as well. You know, we released it 2 years ago, and nothing sort of came of it. It was never staged anywhere, at least not to our knowledge anyway. But this is the first time that it's going to be aired, and what a great way to air it, but on radio, you know, to thousands of listeners. So, can you let our listeners know when they can tune in if they
It's the opening event of our festival, and it's on this Wednesday, the 15th of October at 8 p.m. on Highland Radio. And again, you know, people have got people in around Donegal, it's 103.3 FM that you'll be picking up. But for those who might be your listeners down the country and things like that, there, if they Google Highland Radio or put on highlandradio.com, that they'll be able to listen to the radio play there at the time, and hopefully then it'll be on their website after the play is broadcast, so that if they don't get it on the day itself, they'll be able to listen it. They'll be able to pick it up from the website.
Brilliant, yeah. So exactly for our listeners down the country, 15th of October at 8 p.m. they can sign into the Highland Radio website and go from there. Well, look, Donnan, thanks very much for coming onto the podcast, and very excited to see how the festival goes this year, and very excited as well for the play to debut.
Oh no, and it's great, and as I said, well, hopefully some of your listeners might take the opportunity to come up to Donegal and to see what events that they might like, and if they do, there's the Cathedral Quarters Literary Festival's Facebook page and social media and Twitter and whatnot, and our website that people can see the programme of events, and then they might something that they might be interested in. Hopefully, they might decide to come up and visit us, because we're always more people they know about it, the better. Thanks very much.
Exactly. Well, look, thanks very much for coming on.